Hey there guys, this is Sam
and Justin
at the Survival Review, and you know if I'm appearing in a video, it could only mean one thing. It's October.
Yes.
Our favorite time of the year.
Oh yeah.
And I'm back for my yearly appearance on the channel to talk about some wonderful movies. Today we're going to be talking about a bit of a classic, 1932's White Zombie.
Oh yes.
This is a movie we've kind of wanted to talk about for a while, and it's not one that I think stands out for a ton of people, but we both really enjoy the vibe of this movie.
Yes.
I mean, not viewed as like a classic in the same way that a lot of like the old Universal movies are.
For a horror fan, it's a classic.
Yeah. This is Bela Lugosi at his peak. Right?
Yeah, this is a year after Dracula.
Yeah.
So it's just prime Bela Lugosi, and he's incredible.
You could do an entire movie that is just him doing his expression, just his eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, literally, that is what kind of makes this movie.
Yeah, half the shots in this movie are just his eyes.
Yeah, it does have an atmosphere to it that you really just don't get anywhere
It has a
else.
cool vibe to it because it came out around the time as the Universal monster films. But it's an independent movie, and a low-budget independent movie, so it doesn't have the polish of those films. It has an even more, like, creepy vibe to it.
Yeah, the cheapness works to its advantage.
Yeah.
It has just this kind of, like, I don't know, an indescribable quality to it.
Yeah. Well, to me, my favorite movies to watch around this time are the Universal monster films, like the old school, like, 30s horror films. They just have this perfect, like, Halloween vibe to it, and this movie is similar. Like we just said, it's different though. It has its own like version of it, but it has that similar old school 30s vibe. One of the things about this movie is that it is technically the first zombie movie.
Yeah, I mean, in a very different way, obviously.
No, it's not the zombies we know from today. This is the old school voodoo zombies.
Yeah. Zombie, the living dead, corpses taken from their graves.
This is before Romero came in and said, "Nah, they're gonna start eating people."
No, I mean, and that's something that, you know, when I first kind of heard about this movie, I kind of approached it expecting that Romero zombie type.
Yeah.
And was a little, I wouldn't say disappointed, just confused. Because it's obviously an entirely different thing, but creepy in its own way.
Oh, yeah. So the plot of the film revolves around this couple, Neil and Madeline, who are going to Haiti to meet up with this man named Beaumont who invited them there to get married at his plantation.
Yeah.
Mostly because he's in love with Madeline and he wants to convince her in any way that he can to marry him instead.
And because he's so desperate, he takes a different sort of approach to make that happen, and he enlists the work of Bela Lugosi.
Yes.
What's his name in the
Murder, I can't think of his last name. It's like Murder Legendre or something like that.
Beautiful. He enlists the help of Murder whatever. I forgot that was his name.
I don't think they ever actually say it in the movie, but like in the credits
they say something, but there is a point where they say a man named Murder, and I guess I didn't put that together in my head that his name is actually Murder.
I'll find another way. There is no other way.
But he enlists his help to essentially fake her death and zombify her, so that he could have control and also convince her husband to, you know, leave and think that his wife is dead.
But of course, because his name is Murder, he has more sinister intentions.
No, could he?
and things don't quite go as planned. Especially because once Madeline becomes zombified, she's just a blank slate. It's like there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And also, while that happens, Neil, who is just completely heartbroken by her death, enlists the help of Dr. Brunner, who is kind of like this kind of laid-back Van Helsing, in a sense.
Excuse me, please. Have you got a match?
He's a little more chill about the whole...
he's not like hunting zombies, but he's like, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I'll help you stop it.
And he's like, I've been doing research about this for the last few years.
Yeah, so...
I really want to crack this case.
Excuse me, please. Have you got a match?
And so they go on a mission to stop all this from happening.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really unique about this movie is the camera work and the shots in it.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly ambitious for a movie at this time. I feel like a lot of movies, especially like earlier in the early 30s, were very simple and kind of straightforward. But this tries like a bunch of tricks on like really cool shot compositions. There's a really good shot when Beaumont and Murder are going to Madeline's crypt. And it's like a shot like inside the crypt looking out at them. And a lot of cool stuff like that. And there's some cool effects. Yeah. Bela Lugosi's introduction in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, because the first thing you see is not him. You see those eyes.
Yes. But then the eyes like zoom out of the camera and slowly move to Bella's body, who's standing back right towards the camera.
Yeah, it's really neat. They were trying a lot of cool things.
Yeah, it's very innovative.
Yeah, using what little budget they had to make something really creative.
Exactly, and there's this one scene between Neil and Brunner?
Dr. Brunner.
Okay, and there's this one scene between Neil and Dr. Brunner that's one long take. It's in Brunner's office. And it starts out behind Neil, who's leaning on Brunner's desk, and the camera like zooms out, and the whole scene is one long dialogue scene. Yeah. And when the scene ends, everybody moves back into the place they were when the scene started.
And I wonder, like, while I'm watching that scene, if it's like they did that because they wanted to do it in one take, or if it's just like, we'll save some film. And
I wouldn't be surprised if it's because
time thing. There's even a point where Dr. Brunner kind of stumbles on one of his lines a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It's just like, there's a weird quality to that scene.
The whole movie has like a weird quality to it that just feels unnatural at times. And there's great eerie moments. One of the things that adds to the creepiness factor of the movie is the fact that it doesn't have a whole lot of music in it. And so there's scenes, especially the ones at night, that are just silent, just using the ambient noise around them, and it just has this creepy feel to it. The scene where Beaumont goes to the plantation where Murder has everyone zombified working for him, and it's just like no music, just stark, and all you hear is just like the stuff, like all the equipment moving and stuff. You know, those creepy little guys like pushing the like wheel.
Yeah. You even have one of them falls in and nobody reacts and they just keep going about their business.
Yeah, there's a lot of good use of like shadows and stuff. There's a couple of shots where you see people like over the hill, like walking, and just their shadows. And there's just a lot of great shots like that. Some great creepy imagery that I love.
Even in the scene where Neil is like drinking himself to death, you have this dancing going on and you see the shadows and he sort of starts to see images of Madeline in these shadows and it's just really, really cool imagery.
Yeah, really like unique filmmaking. Yeah. And that just makes the movie stand out.
Yeah.
You paint a charming picture, monsieur. One that I should like to see myself.
And one thing that there's a lot of, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's a little weird, but there's a ton of wipe transitions.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where you're seeing like the screen split into two and Madeline's up in this castle or whatever it is and he's down on this beach or whatever it is, and like it doesn't always work, but they're always trying something different.
Yeah, seems very ambitious for this movie. The movie's not 100% perfect. Like one of the detriments to the lower budget is a lot of the acting is kind of hokey. The acting's not the best, except for Bela Lugosi, of course. He outshines everybody in this movie. But the acting's a little hokey. I always felt like whenever I watched the movie that it kind of loses me a little in like the second half. And it's weird saying this because the movie's only an hour and 7 minutes. It's really quick. But after like after Madeline dies, and you kind of follow Neil as he's kind of like spiraling out of control, and then he goes on the mission to like protect her, it kind of like slows down a bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of momentum earlier on. But it's still entertaining.
Yeah,
but
then in those last like 5 minutes, it's
it really picks up in those last 5 minutes when the zombies take their revenge on Murder.
Yeah.
So going back to Bela Lugosi, he is so freaking good in this.
There's nobody like him.
No. The way he can play, like, charming, but then also sinister is, like, so good.
Yeah.
Like, his whole scene at the beginning with Beaumont. Like I said, he sounds like just, like, this charming kind of guy, but then you could tell in the back of his head there's something else going on there, and it just gets more and more sinister. And even by the end, when he, like, has everyone under his trance and stuff, like, he is so sinister, and he's so great. And, like, there's so many iconic Bela Lugosi moments in the movie, like the hand thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yes.
Wolfman. Ugh, what an evening. I didn't know whether to kiss him goodnight.
You will come under my spell.
Just a lot of things. What I like talking about.
There's tons of great images like throughout that
Yes.
you know make for a fun movie. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't give this movie as much
No.
as it deserves.
And the movie doesn't have, like, that solid pacing of, like, a Universal monster movie. Like we said, it's a little, you know, spotty. It kind of starts and stops here and there. So it doesn't quite work. It doesn't have quite the polish of, like, Frankenstein and Dracula. But it works in its own right.
Yeah.
It has its own charm to it.
Yeah, the sloppiness is kind of the charm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Kind of, there's a little bit of sloppiness to it, and it works. And like I said, just like, I don't know, the whole movie just kind of it has a vibe to it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
No, really, there isn't. It's a very unique film. That, like, if you love horror and this genre, especially those kinds of films, like, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I do as well.
But don't check out the sequel. Apparently, there is a
I
sequel.
don't know. We haven't seen it. I'll watch it.
I watched it and I fell asleep during it, so I don't know that's like anything.
Does it have that Victor Halperin touch? I mean,
I doubt it. It does have Bela Lugosi's eyes.
Oh,
They
there you go.
reused that footage.
there you go.
But there was a sequel a few years later called Revolt of the Zombies. Yeah, it exists. Check out White Zombie, though. Highly recommend it.
And I think that's about all we have to say about it.
Yeah.
So until next time, we'll see you later.
Excuse me, please. Have you got a match?